Hi, welcome to
Hello.
Team Coaching Chats with Nadia and Ro. Hello, Nadia. We haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks, so it's been great
I know.
to reconnect again, hasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So today we've been having a chat about what are the topics that we're noticing coming up in conversation. And one of the things that we thought we would have a bit of a riff around is this topic. If you're a team leader and you employ a team coach, what is it that you can actually expect from a team coach? So what is team coaching all about if I'm the team leader? So that's our topic for today. As always, please do subscribe, leave comments. Share the love. We will hope to grow this channel by you sharing it. So thanks very much for that. So let's get into it then. As a team leader, what can I expect from you as a team coach? So this topic came to me because often as coaches, we think, oh, we've got to have the latest methods, technology, tools, practices, skills, and whatnot in order to be able to help our clients. But in actual fact, just being present. So this thing that we say about being human beings, not human doings, is actually what makes a difference in team coaching. So does that resonate with you as well, Nadia?
Oh, absolutely. Just saying, we're human beings, not human doings. Like it's a catchphrase, but as soon as you say it, something happens in me. Like I feel more relaxed. I feel more in touch with, like the chair and I'm sitting on. It's almost like there's sort of this weight of settling into the space and just being present, which is just a wonderful feeling that very rarely we allow ourselves to tap into. And so I think, as a team leader, what to expect from a team coach. It's allowing to sort of sink into, right, what is actually happening here in the team, because the team might be doing fantastic. You might have, the right strategy, the right vision, like people may be really doing actually quite well.
Mm.
But as a team leader, you may have this sense, right, something is missing. We could be so much better. And we talked about this in a previous conversation around, going from good to great, which is this
Mm.
famous book, which has been quite impactful in my early career. But as you just mentioned around, what is it that we need to get from great to brilliant, like because there's potential there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really fascinating to talk about this topic because it's really, really close to my heart. And why we can rock up, to work and we can just, tick away the hours and go home afterwards. But what would make it actually a brilliant place to work, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And I think often it can be a bit confusing for team leaders. So if you're a team leader out there, I just want to say to you, we feel your pain because it's so hard to understand, well, what's the difference between facilitation, between training, between team coaching? How will I know what to buy? And often in organizations, there's a really heavy focus on results. We want this because we want to improve our bottom line by X, Y, Z. We want to increase our sales, whatever it might be. And often that's about fixing a problem. And sometimes those things are necessary, and sometimes we can help with team coaching. It's more likely, though, that that's going to be resolved by a facilitated session using a process. It could even be process improvement. It could be a skills gap. So you might have to do some training with the team. It could be any of those things. And as you've nailed it on the head there, Nadia, team coaching is not about fixing a problem. It's about helping a team really transform from being good to great to brilliant. So the really awesome teams are those that they're in the flow. You can just see them working together effortlessly. They know how to support each other. They know what to do when a crisis happens because they've got that unwritten understanding of how they work brilliantly together collectively as a team. And so, what I believe, and you might have a different belief, but what I believe team coaching helps the team leader do is understand what is my role in helping create that environment so that the team can not only perform and they can perform at their absolute best. And also understand that, it's about pacing as well. So we're not always going to be performing at our best. So it's about being able to read the room and know when the team can take their foot off the gas, ready for the next challenge, so that they can then get back to their brilliant selves, and how I, as a team leader, support that. So what do you believe?
Yeah, no, totally. So again, like once you said, how can this team sort of really be in flow, really sort of working brilliantly? Again, to me that had like again like a bodily sensation of relax, breathe out. And I think that's where we're coming from in with the being instead of doing. Because and especially with that, with great compassion to team leaders, right? There's so much stress, there's so
Yeah,
much stuff that needs to get done, there's KPIs, there's pressures on the team leader. It's a stressful environment. It can be really under the pump sort of feeling. But once you said that, when the team sort of clicks in, when they really truly support the team leader in their goals, which are also aligned to the team goals, when that is really working like clockwork, if you think about that, that gives you a very relaxed sense because as a team leader, you can just relax and you can let it, let it be in the hands of the team or the most competent people that work together to actually accomplish this. You don't need to start, and you have this, putting your foot on the gas, like you don't have to constantly be putting your foot on the gas. And that's kind of like that feeling of as a team leader to be able to let the foot off the gas and know that the team will be doing great,
yeah,
even brilliant. And so, so that's what I'd like to zoom into, this sort of presence
yeah,
that and the permission that a team coach can give to the team leader to actually allow themselves to sink into that role of fully trusting the team to deliver, which takes a huge relief of pressure of yeah, keen to hear your thoughts in terms of
yeah.
have you got a practical example of how you've dealt with that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this because a long, 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 long time ago, way back in the mists of time, before I became a team coach, a qualified team coach, I was a facilitator. And I remember a session where I was working with a team leader, and I was at that stage in my career, I was really keen to do stuff, to use my tools, demonstrate my capability with methods and so on. During this session, I found that I was sitting there and I wasn't really saying anything. And the leader was holding the conversation. They were leading the conversation with the team in a way that was very different from what I'd experienced before. And during the break, I went up to the team leader and I said, you know what? Do you actually need me here for this conversation? Because it seems as though you've got this. And they said, no, no, I want you to stay. And afterwards I was thinking, well, what was my role in that meeting? I don't quite understand what my role was. And then I thought about it afterwards, and this was my interpretation, was that what I was doing was my presence there as a facilitator at that stage was to hold a different kind of space. So the context of the conversation was different, which then gave permission for a different kind of conversation. So had I not been there, they probably would have gone into their normal meeting routine. But because the context was a facilitated session, I was facilitating the conversation just by being in the room. And I think sometimes we as coaches forget that our presence makes a difference. Good or bad, our presence always makes a difference. And that was a really big lesson for me to learn very early on in my career. And it's kind of where that concept of being ego free came in because I really felt uncomfortable. And I was thinking, I'm not, it's, I was thinking, oh, it's about me. I'm not doing anything. It's like, well, no, Ro, you don't need to do anything. You just need to be present and allow what happens to emerge organically because the leader is trusting that you are holding the space for them. I use that as an example just to illustrate that, often as a team leader, it's quite a lonely place to be in. And just having somebody else in the room who you know has got your back can be really helpful because it then gives you permission to have a different kind of conversation with the team. So it's not always about doing stuff. Sometimes it's about just being there and being present.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, and I love this permission bit of it the most, I think, because it indeed allows us to take a risk, right? To do something different. And it's sort of with that support of a team coach that allows you to actually do that. So I'm just reflecting on how coaching started with executive coaching, like it's also that same thing of that an executive kind of like needs this thinking partner, almost like giving permission to go into places that, on the day-to-day, busy, hectic workday on the floor, you don't get to those reflections, to those
Yeah.
conversations, to that permission of right, what role, and I love that how you mentioned that, what's the role of a team coach, because each and everyone has a different role to play in that dynamic of the team. The team has their role, the team leader have their role, and then, the team coach have their role as well. And so it's kind of like building this support network
Mm.
around the team leader for them to come to realizations that they will have known, maybe back in the back of their head, or but it's giving that permission to let those come out and follow sort of more that intuitive
Mm.
direction to the team. So instead of like putting more gas on the pedal or pushing harder or getting more data to show, we're reaching our KPIs, but we could be doing so much better. There's almost like not a measured approach to that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it goes into just very human, basic things of how can we be together that will make our work so much more enjoyable,
Yeah.
and at the same time, when it's more enjoyable, more impactful and
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we were talking earlier about professional development. So, what can I expect as a team leader if I have a team coach? And I know you had some really brilliant thoughts about the professional development side of having a team coach. So, do you want to maybe share those
Yeah, and in that,
with us?
yeah, and thank you for the question. Because
Thought.
indeed, I was sort of going in the same vein as, executive coaching, and we've come a long way, in terms of offering coaching to a wider audience and also individual performers as well as team leaders. And, everybody sort of can use someone external with an external lens to, what's happening sort of in their world, to bounce off ideas, to reflect. And like there is a lot of, well, either it's facilitation or it's going on an offsite, training and development course, doing professional development for team leaders. And what typically happens is team leaders gather and they go offsite and they do, like development because, individual performance come up through the pipeline. They will manage a team eventually, but that's where often, like what's brought you here won't get you there. It's another famous
Yeah,
book.
yeah,
And so the skills needed for a team leader are quite different from an individual performer. And then, what typically happens is that team leaders go on an offside and they get all these skills and they get this, emotional intelligence. They learn about, like influencing and communication and all of those skills, which are really, really important. But they go offside, they come back in the same team, and the environment is not changed. And
yeah,
so, coaching can hugely help them to continuously apply all of those things that they've learned or that they become aware of in their own behavior, what the effect of that is in the organization. And a coach can actually help a team leader to navigate all of that. And even if a coach does that in collaboration with the team, it can be even more powerful because then you apply your learnings, skills or the content that you've acquired or the great inspiration or the aha moments that you have around your own personal development, you can actually apply it to a team. And a team coach can be of huge value in that process because again, a team coach will give you the permission to experiment with that, to just be the team leader that you would like to be, like that you aspire to be, to
yeah.
actually give you the permission to step into that role. And I think that is something that you cannot do offside or you cannot throw more training at. That is something that you have to live as an experience in being the team leader for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to round off the conversation, and it may lead into other ideas for other videos, is obviously the importance of context and the system. So
Yeah.
you're always coaching within the system. And the other important facet of that is that ability to have the insight in the moment, or something we call reflexivity. And so that's what we're helping both the team leader and the team do in the context of the system in which they're working. And maybe that's a jumping off point for our next video. Who knows?
Yeah.
But again, our conversations
But
always.
what goes through my mind is, because we always talk about how team coaching is not really well understood,
Yeah,
what it is, like it's not coaching the individual, it's
yeah,
coaching the relationships. But what does it actually mean? Like from an outsider, we've done a lot of work in team coaching. We thought a lot about this. But from an outsider, it's kind of like vague, like team coaching, what is that? You're coaching in between the individuals. That sounds very mystical. But what I'm sort of thinking is maybe team leader coaching, because it is actually, in that one-on-one coaching of a person that then, spreads it out to the team, and the team, themselves, they work with other people so they can spread that out again.
mm,
But yeah, I like that concept of team leader coaching in the context, in the system,
yeah,
as something that, is maybe a bit more relatable than just plain team coaching.
yeah. Fantastic. So we've got lots of potential topics that we can talk about just based on this one conversation. So if you're a team leader listening in to this conversation and you're still thinking, oh, I'd like a bit more of this or a bit more of that, do let us know. We're always open to discuss any topics that might be helpful. And we hope that this has been help to you today. And as always, please do like, share, comment on the posts. And we will see you next time for conversations with Nadia and Ro. And as we started the conversation today, remember it's about being human beings, not human doings. Take care.
Thank you, Ro. Really lovely to catch up. See you all
Likewise.
soon.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.